So, welcome to the third episode of Cooking with Unity. This episode, I want to wrap up our little Space Invaders game. And so, what we're going to need to complete this is we're going to add sound. It currently has none, so we're going to add some sound effects, like, explosions and stuff. And I'll show you how to make those and put those in the show, like, well, a way to make them. We're going to add a score system. We're going to add levels in a level complete condition, and we're going to add a game over screen. And hopefully we'll have enough time to do all of that. But if we don't, I'll either go a little bit longer, or maybe we'll do one more episode on this project. So anyway, to start though, there was something that we didn't get working in the last episode. In our spawn object script, first, let me open up the level. So we have this spawn object script that works. When you hit play, you get your little block moving left and right. Well, it's loading. All right. Hello, computer. All right. So it's moving left and right, and we can shoot and kill things, and that's all good. But the problem is, I wanted it so that you could see where the enemies were appearing in the editor. Right now you don't see any enemies, and we just have this enemy manager that its position affects the enemies, but you can't really see where they're going to be ahead of time. So in spawn objects, come on. Alright, so in spawn objects, we had started this on draw gizmos call that is very similar to our functions here. And it wasn't working, and the reason is because I made a mistake in my math here. So what I was trying to do was draw a line through the center of where each thing would spawn, like 3 lines actually, to give it a little bit of spatial information. And for the first part of the line, I used spawn position minus vector 3 left, and then for the second line, I used spawn position plus vector 3 right. Well, the negative version of vector 3 left is equivalent to vector 3 right, so I'm basically just giving it points and you're not seeing anything. So it was my mistake. All these should be pluses. And so if we go back, once we save that, and once it compiles, it'll just take a second here. There. So now you can see where the enemies are going to spawn from our enemy manager. So if we move it around, it'll change the spawn positions of things. And if you change the settings on here, so like if we wanted the enemies to be closer together or further apart here, you could change it and it will shrink and grow the spawn area. And you can change the number of enemies, so we could make it less cramped. Let's make it 3 rows. And let's make the height a little bit more. And then you can hit play. And they'll be in those positions when we hit play. Oh, turn off gizmos. So that works now. Let's move these down a little bit. Our extremely cramped Space Invaders game. So, but yeah, so now you can visualize that. And as I said, the only problem we had was just my math was wrong. It was just basically drawing these points here, like just on the edge or just in the center. It was somewhere, but we weren't seeing them because they were too small. They were line segments that had no segment. So that problem's resolved, and now we have a more useful script. So what are we going to start with for this? So I think adding sound is a good place to start, because sound really can make a game. There's a lot of times when you'll be working on a game and think that it's just terrible, and then you'll add like a couple sound effects and it will be 1,000 times better. It's hard to explain because you'd think this wouldn't matter, but it matters a lot. So one of my favorite tools for making sounds is called SFXR. SFXR is sort of like sound effects I guess, like a verb. So there's actually an online version of SFXR. There's also ports to pretty much any platform, but I'm just going to show you the online one. I think there it is, AS3 SFXR. So this uses ActionScript, and it's pretty much the same interface on all the platforms. And what this is it's a sound generation system, and it has different types. Oh, well, hopefully you can hear that. I certainly heard it. It has different types of sound effects you can make, and it has these random generators which are really easy to use. Like if you want a coin sound, you can just hit coin, and you'll get different coin sounds, or lasers, explosions, power-ups, getting hit, I guess, bouncy sounds, and like menu selects, or Pong games. And it has a bunch. You can also customize these things. I'm not going to go into what everything does. I could spend hours showing you what different things do. But just the random generator is actually very useful. And also, I like to use just randomize, which is just completely random, because you get really interesting sounds like that one. That was pretty cool. And I have there's versions of this for everything. There's Android versions, there's iOS versions. I have one on my phone that I just play around and save sounds off of occasionally, and then just build up a database. So we're going to make a couple of laser sounds and a couple of explosion sounds. Well, just one of each. So let's get I like that. That's kind of that's pathetic enough. That's good. So we're gonna export a wave on that, and we're gonna save it to desktop. Shoot.wave. And let's make an explosion. Ooh, that's a cool one. I could spend too much time on this. There, I like that. It has a little bit of a oomph to it. Alright, I'm gonna call that one death.wave. I saved that to the right place, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. So now we've got two sounds, and I'm gonna bring them into Unity, and we can do this by just dragging them in. So I'm going to grab the sounds, pull Unity back down, and put them in the project. And is it already done? Well, it's already done. That was fast. So we already have them here. They're 3D sounds. That's cool. Alright, so the way you access sounds in Unity is through audio sources. So on any object you can actually add a audio source, and an audio source just means it will produce a sound. And we could put this on our enemy for like the death sound. We could put it on our enemy, and it would it would work. But we're killing the enemies. Like the enemies are going away when we shoot them, so it wouldn't actually play the sound when they die. So I'll show you how to get around that. I'm going to show you the simple case first. Our lasers, we can really just have that play when our bullet appears on the screen. So our enemy is, our bullet is called bullet, and we can just attach a audio source on here, and we can apply an audio clip. So we want shoot, and so play on awake. This means that as soon as this bullet is created, it will play the sound once, which is pretty much exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and see if this just worked right off the bat. It worked, and actually I'm getting stereo on this. Alright, well, we've got sounds. That was very easy. I was actually expecting that to be harder. Alright, so that's one sound, and so now we have this little pathetic pea shooter sound for our little pathetic pea shooter. And now we need to have the enemy's explosion. Now the enemy's explosion will be a little bit harder to set up, because we don't want it to play when the enemy spawns, we want it to play when it dies. So the easiest way is to set up objects for like prefabs that just contain the sound, and that way we can instantiate them like any other object, and this way we can just instantiate it on death. We can probably just hook it into our Gibbs script. That's what we'll try to do. And then it will produce the sound, and we may make another script to clean it up because otherwise it'll just stay there. So let's create one of these objects. So we're going to need one for death. So I'm going to create a empty game object. I'm going to call this death sound source. We'll call it that. And we'll put an audio source. Excuse me. And we're going to apply the death sound to this. And we actually do want it to play on awake. This is because we're going to be spawning this thing whenever we want to have a sound effect. So we're going to make a prefab out of it. Just drag it over here. We don't need it in the scene anymore. And so we have our death sound source. So in the basic sense, we could probably modify our enemy here. We have... where's our Gibb on Collide? We could probably just make it one of the Gibbs. Now, the problem with this is it'll move around because we had the explosion force and stuff, but let's just see if it works first, and then we can make it more appropriate. So, death sound source. And so now we hit play. We're gonna... Oh, yeah. Why is it not killing the enemies now? Oh. No rigid body. Oh, it's having a script error. So we couldn't just do that. The reason we couldn't is because it assumes that there's a rigid body on these things. So actually, we can fudge this to our advantage if we want to just be lazy and not do this. We could actually attach a rigid body to it and just set it to is kinematic, and it won't move, and it'll spawn properly. But let's not do that. That's a little too hacky for my taste. I like hack, but not that much. So let's just clear this. Just change the size down to 8. There we go. So let's make another script that's just, let's see. Gibb on Collide. Well, let's just add an audio source to Gibb on Collide. Let's make it so that you can... We'll make... yeah, I know what we're going to do. Alright. So let's go into Gibb on Collide. And we're going to change the Gibbs to physics Gibbs. And change all references to that. That actually is probably it. Alright, that was easy. And now let's make another array. Static Gibbs. These are going to be ones that don't move. So we'll just add another line, another for each statement. And for game object Gibb in static Gibbs. And this time we don't want to actually add an explosion force. And I'm not going to have the random stuff applied to this. Position. Alright, so what these will do is this will just spawn an additional object right where the thing was, and this will allow us to have the sound play. We'll just attach our sound in there. We could also do it for... I'm trying to think of other cases where you'd want to do this, but there might be a case where you want an object to spawn that doesn't have a physics message. I'm offline. What? What? Wait, no I'm not. Someone said I was offline. I don't think I am. Hold on. Are you sure? Okay. Alright, sorry about that distraction. So, what am I doing? So, We now have this static stuff, and we're gonna have to reset our Gibbs here on our enemy, I think, because oh no, we're not. Maybe. Oh, we didn't save. Now we're gonna have to redo it. So as soon as this loads, yep, got nothing in there. So we're gonna put our Gibbs in here. I really should probably just add a multiplier so that I can just put it in once, but I can do that later. Yeah. Actually, if you click this little lock, it locks it to whatever you're looking at, and that's actually really useful when you're doing this stuff. So we're going to put our death sound source on the static Gibbs. And now let's see if this works. Works like a charm. Now the only problem is, like when we were doing our bullet stuff before, we've got these death sound sources that just stay forever. So let's fix that. So we're going to make a new script that destroys our sound source when it's done playing. So destroy after play. New script called destroy after play, and we're going to make it so it destroys the object when it's done playing. So we're going to see if autocomplete can just teach me how to do this. So if audio dot dot clip dot no, it's not in there. Alright, we can do is playing. This will probably work. So if not audio is playing, destroy. This may not work, but we're gonna try it. Destroy game object, and let's see what this does. Oh wait, we have to attach it. So we're gonna attach it to our death sound source here, and we're gonna hit play, and oh, it worked. First time. That's awesome. The only reason I was worried that might not work is I wasn't sure if it would be counted as playing at the start, but it was. So that was easy. See, scripting is easy. You just have to know what you're looking for. So yeah, now we have sound. That went faster than I thought it was going to. So let's see. I really need to turn off notifications like that. Alright, so we have our sound. So now we need, we're going to add a scoring system. We want to have points. We want to get points when we kill things. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an object that manages our score. And it may manage game state later. I'm not sure, but we'll give it a shot. So we're going to create a new empty game object. And I'm going to call this the score manager. And we're going to need a script for it, so I'm going to create a script called score manager. And all this thing is going to do is just manage our score and actually display the score on the screen. So we're going to be using onGUI on this, and I'm going to have to look up a little bit on Google, but that's what this show is all about, showing you how to find this stuff. So we're going to want it to just display something, and let's start with that. So let's go to Google, and we're going to search for Unity GUI. So GUI script reference. Let's just try on GUI. All right. So here we go. Yeah, it's just on GUI. I think it's just a void. Yep. So I'll just copy this in. So what this will do is it'll create a little button on the screen. We're not going to use a button, but I'm just going to show it because this is just the example. So we're going to put it on the score manager. And we're going to hit play. And we have a button. And when you click it, it actually prints. You click the button. That's so useful. Alright. So now that we have the basic idea, let's actually make it do what we want it to do. So we're going to want a GUI label, I think. So GUI.label, and it needs a position, and GUI content. Oh, string text, there we go. So GUI label, we're just going to set the position to 0, 0 and see where that shows. New rect 0, 0, 60, and I don't know, 20. And we wanted to say something, so hello. Might as well do the world. Alright, and we can get rid of this logic. So I just want to see where it's going to print this on the screen. Alright, hello, in the corner. Perfect. That's a good place for our score too, so that'll work. We don't see the world. That's probably because the width isn't wide enough. Let's go ahead and change that to make sure that's the problem. So our width is 60. Let's make it 120. And check it out. Yep, hello world. Alright, so we have our little GUI thing there. And thank you. I'm going to be doing this every week, so I just want to get this show going, and if I do it weekly, it'll be worth something to someone somewhere, is what I figure. So we've got our score manager. It's displaying hello world. We want to actually display a score, so we're going to use a public static int for our score. And public we've seen before, int we've seen before. Int is just an integer. It's a whole number, like no decimal places. Public means that we can access it, and usually we've been using that for accessing it with script. Static is the new thing here. Static is, it means that it's shared across instances as opposed to for each instance. That probably isn't going to make a lot of sense to you, but the thing is we can actually access this score outside of the score manager. So I'll show you how to do that in a second. So we're going to set it specifically equal to 0, even though that'll probably happen anyway. And instead of printing hello world, we're just going to put, oh, this is an int. I wonder if this will work. Let's see if this just works. Compile errors. Yep. Okay, that didn't work. So score is an int, and it needs a string here. So we're going to see if we can do toString. There we go. Dot toString. And that should do it. Alright, 0. Perfect. That's exactly what we want to see in the corner there. But it's not going up when we're shooting things, so we haven't added that functionality yet. So let's add that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this to the, let's see, where's the best place to put this? Let's make a separate script. Let's do a C# script that says update score. Actually, let's call it change score. And what this is we're just going to have this when it's activated. Let's see. Let's do update change score on collide. Let's change that actually to be more specific. On collision, on collide. And it's gonna be similar to our Gibbs on collide script, so I'm gonna open that up for reference. So to reopen this because I changed the name of it, and we're going to want to make sure to change the name to be consistent or it will complain at us. So let's do that. And Gibbs on collide is on trigger enter, so we're just going to use the same logic here. And all this is going to do is change our score manager score. So score manager dot score plus equals value. No, value is a keyword, so we can't use that. So point value. We're going to create that's going to be a variable. We're going to declare up here public int point value. And so this, because it was public static, we could actually just do score manager dot score and change it. You can't really use this to access individual instances, but you can access just the base class, and it's perfect for a manager thing because we only are going to have one of it. And so it's just a really simple way of getting things set up. There's like 20 different ways we could change the value of another script. This is just one of them. Well, you'll see more on later episodes, but this one will work for our purposes right now. So now we're going to attach this to the enemy. Now, this script doesn't check to see if you've collided multiple times, and so if we weren't destroying the enemies, it might cause some problems to that effect, but we are destroying the enemies, so this will work just fine. We'll just set the point value to 100, and we're going to hit play. And hopefully, it totally worked. Look, our score's going up by 100 each. And now any object that you wanted to add that script to, you can make them worth points. So if you had a different enemy type, you could change that to a different value, and when you hit them, you get points. As a matter of fact, if we weren't killing the enemies, let's actually try that just for the fun of it. We'll disable Gibbs on collide and see what happens. So when we shoot, well, that didn't look like it was disabled. I guess when we spawn them, it's not disabled. That's unfortunate. Oh. Huh. All of them seem to... Oh, I'm locked. Duh. Gibbs on collide, it's off. Do we have more than one of these? Why is that happening? Has Gibbs on collide disabled? Oh well. I guess we can't see what it would do. But, okay, well, who cares about that? I'll just turn that back on to be safe. And actually, I'm going to save my scene because it's been forever. And I'm going to save the project as well. Last time I didn't think to do that and lost some work. So remember, save early and often. More often than I am, please. So we've got our game. We've got a score. We need a level complete condition. And I'd say the best way to do that would be when all the enemies are dead, we want more enemies. So we have our enemy manager. What is that? That's our spawner. Okay. So I'm going to modify the spawn script a little bit. We're going to add a feature to it this I think is really useful. Now, depending on how you set up your objects, this may not be the choice for you. But I like having the objects that are spawned by a spawner be parented to that spawn. Well, not parented, be children of that spawner. And the reason is it makes it nice and organized. Now, the problem with it is if you're changing the local position, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So you want to never change the local position, which we aren't. We're just using position in our case. Where is that thing I just made? Okay. Go back in here. Oh, spawn objects. I didn't just make it. We've had it for a while. Alright, so spawn objects. We're going to make each of these objects a child. So we're going to do game object new object equals instantiate blah 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 as game object. Come on. Alright, so now we have this, and we can do stuff with our little game object. So we're going to set the new object dot parent. Wait. Oh, dot transform dot parent equals game object. So what this will do is it'll make each of these, the parent will be whatever this script is attached to, which our spawners got this script. So if we hit save, things should work the same way. Oh. Game object dot transform. All right. Or actually, we can just do transform. Why not? And let's see if that works. All right. All right. It totally worked. Everything works the same way as it did. I don't know why it's running so crappy right now. Okay, there we go. Everything works the same way it did, but you'll see that the enemy manager actually has this little disclosure indicator, and you can see all the enemies right in there. And so this means that they're children of the enemy manager, which is nice. Now we can see at a glance that this thing has spawned these characters. And I think that's nice. The other thing we can do now is we can easily check to see how many enemies are currently on the screen. And so let's do that. So what were we doing? We can use that to our advantage now. So in this thing, we don't have an update loop yet, so we're going to add one. Void update. And we're going to make it so if, let's see, if, oh yeah, if transform dot child count equals 0, and we do equals, that means we're comparing it to 0. We're not assigning 0 to the child count. And if you do a single equals, I think Unity will give you a warning that you should listen to, because it's not going to do what you want it to do. I guarantee it. It'll just set the enemies to 0, and actually, in this case, you can't even set child count, so it should give an error. But that can shoot you in the foot programming occasionally. So 2 equals if you want to compare something. So transform.childCount, if it equals 0, I'm just going to have it call the start function again. And we'll see if this just works. So this should basically reset everything if all the enemies die. So let's give that a shot. I want this to clear on play. Alright. So we kill all the enemies. And there we go. They reset. Our bullets kept going, so we're probably going to have like enemies that when they die, you'll kill another one. There you go. And so that works, actually. And for our purposes, that's what we're going to do. You could add more logic to make it so that it resets everything and makes it so that you don't end up having bullets staying on the screen. But that's outside the scope of what I'm going to do for our little project here. So we got a score. We've got our enemies dying. We've got levels. We're not really changing the game speed, but we'll do that on another project. Maybe we'll add that. We've got enough time today to maybe do more than I thought we were going to do. Let's add a game over screen. So we want it so that if you die, it says game over, and then you can press a button and play again. So let's see, what's an easy way to do this? First of all, let's make it so when an enemy hits you, it kills the player. So we're going to have our player, and we're going to just attach Gibbs on collide to him. That should handle killing him. And we'll give him a few Gibbs. Let's give some explosion force. We'll just make him explode like everyone else is right now, but... Five is enough for me. I'm not spending more time than that. So let's see if this just works. First of all, oh, collided with our own bullet. All right, so let's look at our player. It's part of the default layer. We want to add a player layer. Player layer. So now we can go into, let's save our scene, save our project. And let's go into project settings, physics. And we looked at this last time. And basically we want the player, we don't want it to collide with anything except the enemies. So let's just do that. And we don't want it to collide with itself even. So just enemies is the only thing it should collide with. And actually the Gibbs, let's make it so they don't collide with anything at all. There should be no reason for them to collide with anything. And so that should solve that problem right there. No, it did not. Do we have bullets? Oh, we don't have bullets. Interesting. So is our bullet... Alright, let's make a layer for our bullets. And let's go into project settings, physics, and we're going to make bullets not collide with anything except enemies. Still didn't work. Oh, because we didn't actually... So our player needs to be part of player, and our bullets need to be part of bullets. Alright, so now our player's not exploding. He's not exploding from the Gibbs. The Gibbs are passing through things, and with this enemy gets down to our level, it should kill us. Come on. Go faster. Well, actually, let's make it go faster. It's too late. Bam! Alright. Totally worked. So we just died. And we got a sound effect, but that was because the enemy died too. I'm not going to worry about having a separate sound for the player. But you could do that. So, let's see. What do we got? We need to now detect when the player's dead and throw up a game over screen. So I'm just going to put that in our score manager. I'm going to rename it to Game Manager. And may as well change the score manager to Game Manager. And then we're going to have to change the references here. So our score manager is now a game manager. It's been upgraded. And our change score and collide needs to actually use game manager. So There we go. Yeah. So now we're gonna add another thing. We're gonna add a GUI dot label. We're gonna put this center of the screen basically. So new rect. Let's see. Let's actually have it calculate that for us. So we can use our screen. Is it screen dot width divided by 2.0f screen dot height divided by 2.0f, and then width will make it 120 and height will make 20 again, and hopefully that'll fit game over. And then we're gonna say game over. So this will just say game over at all times if everything's right. Unexpected symbol. Oh, need our semicolon there. So we have game over. It's not centered, but that's okay. I'm just gonna move it to the left a little bit. Screen width divided by 2 minus 50. See if that makes it centered enough. Close enough for my purposes. So obviously the game's not over because I'm playing right now, so let's fix that. We can just have a little we're gonna make a let's see, public static game and bool game over equals false, and we're going to say if game over, put this label on the screen. So now, since this is set to false, it shouldn't show up on the screen. So it doesn't. So it's not showing up on the screen, and once we set that, hopefully it will show up on the screen. So here we go. We just need to make it so when the player dies, the game's over. So we're going to create another quick little script called game over on collide. And again, this is going to be like our Gibbs on collide thing. It's going to use on trigger enter. And we're just going to set game manager dot game over equals true, and we can just apply that to our player. So now we have this game over on collide script, and it takes it's nothing fancy. It's just hopefully will work. So let's make one of these enemies really fast. Where's the speed? Speed. Let's make one of these guys cruise. There we go. Go kill that player. Yeah! Game over. We have a game. Game that you can't restart. So we'll fix that. So our game manager now has a reason to have an update thing. So where's our game manager? Here it is. So we didn't have anything in the update before. On GUI handles GUI drawing. So we need something to update. So basically, if game over, we want to be able to reset this. The easiest way will probably just be reloading the scene. So let's give that a shot. I actually don't know that one off the top of my head. So let's search Google for changing levels Unity. Change level in Unity. It's in all caps. Let's click on this one. You get just as good results from forums as you do pretty much anything anywhere else on the internet. You'll get stuff, application, load level, and then the level name. So If game level, sorry, application.load level if game over. So what's the name of our level? It's called main level. Let's see if this just works. This is a quick and dirty way of getting things back to the way they started. Main level does not exist in this context. Oh. How about we try it with quotes? That's probably what they meant to say there. And we will speed up one of the enemies again because I am an impatient person. Come on, cruise. Bam. And it loaded the level. Oh god. Alright, so that caused some problems. But we're going to change it to work a little bit differently. So, load level. So does this thing not get destroyed or reset when the level's loaded? Alright, well, if game over, we don't want it to just load the level. We want it to load it after we hit something. So if input dot get key down key code Z again. So this will make it so we have to hit Z, and we'll see if this works. This may not work, and if it doesn't, we'll figure out how to fix that. So let's speed up another enemy again. Where is it? There it is. 50. Yeah. Game over. So we're on the game over screen. We hit Z, and it loads the level, but it still thinks it's game over for some reason. I guess the game manager is staying around. Oh, that's right, because it's a static variable. That makes sense. So it's not actually staying. Well, the main instance is staying around, but so we're gonna have to change that. So we'll just set it to not game over anymore. So game over equals false and load the level. Now this should work. So go over here, speed up one of the enemies. 50. And bam, game over. And then we hit Z, and it's no longer game over. And actually it maintained our score, so we need to reset that too. But actually this will allow us to make a little high score thing real quick. Why don't we do that? Because it'll be easy, why not? So we're going to go back to our game manager script. We're going to create a new one of these. And we're going to do, let's see, we're going to first have this say score. And with strings, you can actually add the strings together, and they will concatenate. So this should print out our score after the word score. And we're going to make one that says high. Oh, we're in the modern world. Let's say high score. We've got the room. And this one we're going to put just underneath it. So we'll put this at 20. Oh, I didn't put my plus sign here. Alright, so let's see what this does. Should print the score twice. Alright, cool. Now we want a separate variable for our high score. So let's make a public, actually this one will be private, static int high score. Spell that right. Equals 0. And what we're going to do is when game over happens, we're going to set score to 0. Score equals 0. That was easy. I was overthinking. And what time is it? Okay, we've got 10 minutes. And then what else do we need? We're going to make it so in the update loop, if score is greater than high score, high score equals score. So this should work the way you expect a high score thing to work. So it'll increment with the score if it's higher. So let's see if that works just right off the bat. So we've got our score. Oh wait, one more thing. We're not actually showing the high score here. We're using score.toString, so we're going to do high score. So we go back, we hit play, we kill some enemies, get some points. They both are going up. We go to level 2, awesome. We're just kicking butt, and then one of the enemies suddenly becomes super fast because of no reason other than testing, and hits us. All right, and we got points for them. Game over. We hit Z. We hit Z, and our score is now 0. And our high score is not incrementing, and then once we get to that high score, it should start incrementing again. Now obviously it just doesn't save the score or anything, but it gives you an idea of how to implement at least the initial portion of a high score system. Alright, so it's working perfectly. Alright, that's awesome. Why am I on iPhone wide free aspect? Obviously I was doing some iPhone stuff. And now that they'll go all the way to the edge. That's funny. Because our code is awesome. Alright. So, let's see. Last 10 minutes. What should we do? Honestly, this thing's more complete than I was expecting it to be. But let's clean up the project a little bit. Let's show that you can have organization. Just because I don't have organization doesn't mean that you don't have to. So we're going to make a scripts folder and throw our scripts in there. Just multi-select some of these. Just get them dragged in. And just all of them. Why not? I'm sure that someone's going to email me or something and tell me that there's a way to just automatically organize this. So we've got our scripts, throw spawn objects in there too, make sure that I didn't break anything. I like to test this more than you probably need to, because I've made changes where I did something wrong and caused problems before. And let's make a folder for our prefabs. No, that's not what I want. I don't want to do prefab at all. I want a folder prefab. Throw all these in there. So yeah, I mean, all we have is basically prefabs and scripts, and then we just have a couple of imported objects and a material, which is technically an imported thing, even though we created it in Unity. So yeah, so it's a little bit more organized. It still works. And I'd mentioned something about making the enemy speed faster. So what would be the way that we'd want to do that? Let's look at our enemy AI script. And we have a speed. So let's make speed dictated by the game manager rather than by the enemy AI script. So our speed is 2.5. So I'm just going to remember that in my head. Let's go to our game manager, and we're going to add a public static float. Speed equals 2.5f. And we can't actually edit that in the editor, can we? So let's go ahead and make a Can I do that? Yeah, let's public float starting speed equals 2.5f. We're gonna actually change this to just be whatever, and we're gonna make it so we're gonna assume that we only have one game manager. This could mess things up if you had a bunch of game managers, but we only want one. I'll go into singletons later, but for right now this will work. On start, we're going to set our speed equals starting speed. And so this will allow us to actually change it in the editor to whatever we want. And let's see. Okay, so now in the enemy AI, this is probably not going to work very well, is it? Enemy AI, we've got a speed. We set their thing based on the speed. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. This will work. So, yeah. So we're going to get rid of the speed variable here, and everywhere that we find speed, we're going to replace it with game manager dot speed all. And so first, let's see if this works exactly the way that it worked before. In theory, it should. All right, it does. That's good. And so now on the enemy, not an enemy, on the game manager, we have a starting speed, and we can adjust that, and hopefully that will make the enemies faster. It works. All right. And now we just need to make it so the speed increases. So we're going to have it increase every level. So where is it? Our spawn objects is what's handling respawning the enemies. So we're going to do it in here. So if transform.childCount equals 0, start. Well, we're going to do that after. We'll do that last. It probably wouldn't matter, but I'm going to do it anyway that way. So if transform.childCount equals 0, game manager dot speed plus equals, let's make it a variable in here. This is kind of going out of the scope of our spawn objects script here. This is hacky, but it'll work. Public int speed increase per level. Ultra descriptive for no reason. And we'll just make it equal to 1.0f by default. And we're probably not going to change it. So plus equals speed increase per level. So we got things a little bit strangely cross-linked here. But I mean, it was fast enough to set this stuff up. You can always organize stuff later. And let's see how this goes. So, compiler errors. Cannot be converted into an int. Oh, I don't want an int. I want a float. So, here we go. So we have a bunch of enemies. They're going to speed. We kill all the enemies, and they're going faster and faster. And yeah, it's working. Game's way too easy, but it does work. I'll let you guys worry about making the game hard and actually making it fun. But it does work. So that's 9 o'clock. So thank you for tuning in. If you want to email me with any comments, suggestions, whatever, let's make this big. Sorry about this. 36. It's pushypixels at pushypixels.com. And on Twitter, I'm Drakfire. And on Yeah, okay, that's probably good enough. So, anyway, if you have any comments or suggestions, or just like the show or dislike the show, send me an email or tweet me. And I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in, and good night.